That thud you're about to hear is the Herman Cain campaign crashing back to earth. So writes Joe Klein in this week's issue of Time. In today's New York Times, the first Cain campaign expose entitled, "As Cain Promotes His Management Skills, Ex-Aides Tell of Campaign in Chaos." Interviews with Mr. Cain's former staff members, volunteers, and supporters give a glimpse of a candidate who appeared to show ambivalence toward basic campaign management, which led to problems in hiring, scheduling, fundraising, and messaging. It's a tale of former 999 idealists sadly discovering who was really behind the curtain. Some former aides said they had longed to see the problem-solving side of Mr. Cain, or see Mr. Cain at all. Over the spring and summer, he did not spend much time with workers. He did not plan conference calls or staff meetings, and was given to changing his mind about appearances, sometimes with little notice, a tendency that angered his field workers. Cain forced his campaign workers to sign non-disclosure agreements, something I've never heard of in a campaign, so most of them are not quoted by name in the article. Everything we tried to do was like pulling teeth to get accomplished, said a former staff member in Iowa who asked for anonymity. I've never been involved in a job that was as frustrating as this one. We couldn't get an answer on anything. Everything was fly by the seat of your pants. That is direct confirmation of what this network's Republican senior statesman has been surmising every morning.
He's making it up as he goes along, and it's starting to blow up in his face. Flavor of the month, he is this month's Michelle Bachmann, or Rick Perry, or Donald Trump, or Sarah Palin. He's making it up! It's just seriously,
but
this
is Herman Cain,
this is farce.
So
of course he is. They're just making it up.
It's great.
He's making it up. And then there's the secret Cain campaign email memo that the New York Times has exposed. It contains an edict that I, for one, have tried to enforce everywhere I've worked. And I quote, "Do not speak to him unless you are spoken to." I found it odd, said a former staff member who liked to prep Mr. Cain for appearances while driving. The aide, who spoke on the condition of anonymity, quit not long afterwards, citing the email as one of the deciding factors. Joining me now, Time columnist Joe Klein, whose latest column, The GOP Wheel of Fortune, appears in this week's issue. Also, MSNBC political analyst Alex Wagner. Thank you both for joining me tonight.
Good to be here, Lawrence.
Joe, look, that don't speak unless you're spoken to. I have tried that around this building, and it doesn't work anywhere. It doesn't work in the elevator. Have you heard of that one on the campaign trail before?
Not in a presidential campaign. No. This is really this thing was hilarious from the start. It was ridiculous how pumped up it got. It's about to fizzle in a very, very dramatic way.
Why will it fizzle? Why?
One word: abortion. I mean, his position on abortion is essentially Mario Cuomo's old position on abortion. I'm against it personally. But, the state shouldn't be involved in this. Now, when actual Republicans hear this in Iowa, when I was out there this week, their essential response is, he is dead to me forever.
But hasn't he changed it now? His official position is the official Republican position, and that's what it is as of today, and that's all that matters, right?
Except for the fact that he said it the other way on Fox News and in a couple of other places earlier in the week, and people don't know this guy, and the more they're learning about him, he's as much of a turnaround artist, should we say, as Mitt Romney is on a lot of issues. He really is making it up.
Alex Wagner, first of all, I want to thank you for being the only one here at MSNBC who observes my do not speak to him unless spoken to rule. Thank you very much for
rules.
that. You're very good at that.
I know the rules, boss.
By the way, to be fair to Herman Cain, and I think all the questions from now on will begin with that. To be fair to Herman Cain, his rule about not speaking to him unless spoken to apparently applies perhaps only in the car. Only in the car when he's going places. He doesn't want to be spoken to. And in fact, I mean, as many of us who've been in the car with candidates can tell you, that's usually where most of your talking gets done.
Sure.
But what about the abortion thing? I mean, you know, Romney's position on abortion is number one, forget what I used to say. It's what I say now going forward. And why won't that work for Cain to just say, ignore everything I've said prior to now, and now I'm going to say this thing on the index card that the Republicans want me to say?
I think it's what Joe was getting to at the end of his comment, which is that, I mean, it's like this for Herman Cain on every single issue. I mean, foreign policy, Uzbekistan. I mean, this is a guy that is theoretically only now preparing to know what countries are in the world so that he can make some sort of vaunted foreign policy speech in the next week. This is someone whose 999 tax plan has been thoroughly and roundly debunked by economists, both conservative and liberal in stripe. I mean, he's just simply not prepared for prime time. And then there's, of course, Lawrence, there's the sinking feeling that this guy never really was running for president anyway. He's written a book, and look, I think we can all be, you know, if he doesn't end up getting the nomination, I think we can all relax and go to bed at night knowing happily that Herman Cain will be on the national stage as a pundit and a voice for conservatives for some time to come.
But Alex, he did say, Cain said he has been studying foreign policy for a couple of months now, which I believe is a couple of months longer than Rick Perry.
Well, and you got to give Herman Cain the you know, he is great in debates. He keeps things fiery. He keeps things moving. Rick Perry is looking for some teleprompter in the sky that doesn't actually exist. When he said he was doing debate prep and his advisors were saying he was, you know, really trying to bone up on his P's and Q's for the debate, I'm not quite sure what that entailed. I mean, I watched his last debate performance and thought, did debate prep mean watching back episodes of Entourage? Because I don't really see where the prep part came in here.
Joe, going back to your column, it says, Cain's flim-flam or naivete or whatever confirms the sneaking suspicion that the pizza man is in over his head and makes this time for another spin of the Republican Wheel of Fortune. Two questions.
Of misfortune.
Two questions. What do you mean sneaking suspicion? Clearly he's in over his head, okay?
Well,
let's just agree with that.
Subtlety and irony.
Right. So your thought is, okay, he's the latest bubble candidate, like Michelle Bachmann, who runs up in the polls, like Trump, who got good poll numbers before he admitted that he was never really running for president. And your theory is that someone else will move into this Cain position in the polls? Who could that be?
Who could it be? Well, you know, it's possible that Perry will come back because he has money to put on TV, but his strategy, which is wall-to-wall ugly, really just doesn't work in presidential campaigns. It's a kamikaze strategy. So that kind of leaves Gingrich and Santorum, both of whom I saw out in Iowa this week, and both of whom are fascinating. By the way, this Republican field is the most, you know, glorious display of weird humanity that I've ever seen on a debate platform. And they've had all of these different rationales. Most of them aren't really running for president, like Herman Cain running for lecture fees, probably. Donald Trump was running for ratings. I mean, you know, Sarah Palin running to sell book and reality TV show. But this has very little to do with presidential politics. Newt, however, is a very clever guy. He has very interesting ideas. He's very undisciplined. I saw him turn a stump speech into an endless lecture about brain science the other day. It was fascinating.
Standing ovation for that one, the brain science one?
Only after he called Obama every name in the book.
Yeah, well, you got to do that.
You got to do that.
In any brain science lecture, you will find Obama. Alex, the Times article about the campaign is filled with great stuff about Herman Cain leaving a group of people behind, not knowing they were upstairs, wanting to contribute to his campaign. He went to the airport instead. Real candidates don't do that. The Cain campaign does have a response to the Times article. They say, other than pleasantly saying hello, some people in the past didn't understand that it is his time to prep for interviews, speeches, and other public appearances, but because he is nice and engaging, some people thought it was okay to strike up conversations whenever they were in the car with him. And so those people got straightened out by that email. Herman Cain, do you see that? Do you buy Joe's notion that this thing has to flame out, and the other side of it, that the Cain bubble will probably get replaced by someone else?
1,000%. And I think that if the Cain bubble doesn't burst, there are going to be a lot of Americans who become Canadians in the next several months. I mean, it's insane, and it's high comedy in the GOP presidential field. I totally agree about Santorum. I think in small arenas, he's great. He's ideologically incredibly conservative and consistent, and he really connects with his audiences.
Okay, the Santorum campaign should pop the champagne right now. I believe it's just had its high point of the year. Time's Joe Klein and MSNBC's Alex Wagner. Thank you both for joining me tonight.